Most men spend their entire lives learning the wrong thing. They study how to look better, how to talk smoother, how to say the right words at the right time. They rehearse their stories. They work on their jokes. They memorize lines they found online and practice them in the mirror like they're preparing for an audition. And none of it works the way they hoped. Because the problem was never what they were saying. The problem was what they were trying to do with it. They were trying to impress. And the moment a woman feels like she's being impressed at, something shuts off inside her. Not because she's difficult, not because she doesn't want to feel attracted, but because impression is performance, and performance creates distance. What actually pulls a woman in is something far more powerful and far less understood. It's not your confidence, though that matters. It's not your looks, though she notices. It's not your status, though it registers. What truly moves a woman emotionally is the feeling that a man actually sees her, not her surface, not her appearance, not the version of herself she shows the world every single day. Her, the real version, the one underneath the composure, the one she rarely gets to show anyone. And the fastest way to reach that version isn't through compliments. It isn't through grand gestures. It's through the right question asked at the right moment with the right energy behind it. Today, I'm giving you 6 questions that do exactly that. Questions that bypass the surface conversation every other man is stuck in and go straight to the emotional core. Questions that make her feel something rare, something she doesn't experience often, something she will associate with you long after the conversation ends. These are not pickup lines. These are not manipulative tricks. These are doorways into a level of conversation most men never reach. And when you understand why they work, not just how to say them, everything about the way women respond to you changes permanently. Before we get into the questions, you need to understand something that most men get completely backwards. You've been told, either directly or indirectly, that attraction is about what you bring to the table, your achievements, your humor, your body, your social proof. And yes, those things play a role. But they don't create the kind of deep, magnetic pull that makes a woman think about you when you're not there. That kind of attraction is emotional. And emotional attraction doesn't come from what you present. It comes from how she feels when she's around you. Here is the distinction that changes everything. There is a difference between a woman being impressed by you and a woman being moved by you. Impressed means she acknowledges your value. Moved means she feels something she can't fully explain. Impressed fades. Moved lingers. And the way you move a woman isn't by talking about yourself. It's by asking the kind of questions that make her discover something about herself she wasn't expecting to find in the middle of a random conversation. Because when a woman has a moment of genuine self-discovery around you, when she says something out loud that she's never said before, when she pauses and thinks and then reveals something real, she doesn't just feel good about the conversation. She feels good about you. That's the mechanism. That's what these 6 questions are built on. Not tricks, not psychology hacks. Just the rare experience of being truly asked, truly heard, and truly seen. Now let's get into them. The first question is this. What is something you were completely certain about 5 years ago that you no longer believe today? This question does something most conversation starters never do. It asks her to reflect on her own evolution. It doesn't ask where she's from. It doesn't ask what she does for work. It asks her to look inward and trace the outline of how she changed. And that is deeply personal territory that almost no one ever takes her to. When she starts answering, she isn't just giving you information. She is walking you through a chapter of her life that shaped who she is right now. Maybe it was a belief about love. Maybe it was something about her own worth. Maybe it was a career path she thought was everything until she realized it was nothing. Whatever the answer is, it opens a door. And your job in that moment is not to rush through that door. Your job is to stand at the threshold and let her lead. Don't share your own version immediately. Don't compare. Don't redirect the conversation back to yourself. Just listen with the kind of full attention that makes a person feel like what they're saying actually matters. Because here's what happens when you do that. She starts to feel something she doesn't feel in most conversations. She feels heard. And being heard by a man who isn't waiting for his turn to talk is so uncommon that it becomes memorable. She won't forget the man who made her feel like evolution was worth exploring. The second question goes one layer deeper. When do you feel most like yourself? Not happiest, not most successful, not most productive, most yourself. This is a question that cuts straight through the social mask every person wears in public. Because she knows how to come across well, she knows how to present herself in a way that's polished and appropriate. But very few people ever ask her about the moments when all of that drops away, when she's not performing for anyone, when she's just fully, completely herself without editing or adjusting. Her answer to this question reveals everything. If she says it's when she's alone with her thoughts, that tells you something. If she says it's when she's creating something with her hands, that tells you something. If she says it's in deep conversations late at night, that tells you something entirely different. And not only does her answer give you a map of who she really is, it also does something incredible in real time. As she describes that feeling, she starts to feel it again. Her energy shifts. Her posture softens. Her voice changes slightly. She is no longer sitting across from a man she just met. She is reconnecting with the version of herself she loves most. And you were the one who took her there. That is not a small thing. That is the kind of moment that creates emotional memory, the kind she carries with her. The third question removes every wall she's learned to build. If nothing was stopping you, no fear, no financial pressure, no expectations from anyone, what would you actually be doing with your life right now? Most conversations stay safely inside the world of what is. What she does, where she lives, what she likes. This question steps entirely outside that world and asks about what could be, what she actually wants before life told her to be realistic, before someone told her to be careful, before she learned to shrink herself down into what was acceptable and safe. When you ask this, you're giving her permission to be honest in a way she rarely gets to be. And what comes out of that permission is something powerful. You start hearing the real version, the dreams she's been quietly carrying, the paths she stepped away from, the life that still lives somewhere inside her that she doesn't talk about in normal conversation. In that moment, you become something rare for her, not just a man she's talking to, a space where she gets to be fully honest. And that feeling, the feeling of being free to say the truth without being judged or fixed or redirected, creates a kind of emotional attachment that goes beyond surface attraction. She doesn't just like talking to you. She needs to talk to you, because you're one of the only places where she gets to breathe fully. The fourth question is more direct and more revealing than anything most men ever ask. What kind of connection do you actually believe you deserve? Not what she wants, not what she's looking for. What she believes she deserves. That distinction is everything, because what a person wants and what they believe they deserve are often two completely different things. She might want deep, consistent, emotionally available love, but if she doesn't believe she deserves it, she won't accept it when it arrives. She'll sabotage it. She'll settle for something smaller. She'll attract the same pattern again and again because her belief system is running the show beneath the surface. When you ask this question, you're not just opening a conversation, you're holding up a mirror, and most people are not used to looking at themselves that directly. Some women will answer with clarity. They know exactly what they deserve, and they'll tell you without hesitation. That directness is a sign of self-awareness, and it tells you she has standards she actually enforces. Others will laugh it off, or give a vague answer, or deflect entirely. And that hesitation is just as informative. Because a woman who doesn't know what she deserves will show you that in how she relates to you. Your job here is not to fill in her blank. Your job is not to rush in and tell her what she deserves in an attempt to seem emotionally intelligent. Stay grounded. Stay observant. Listen to what she says, and equally to what she avoids saying. Because this answer is one of the most honest previews of how she will show up in any relationship she enters. The fifth question reaches the part of her that most people never even know exists. What is something people consistently misunderstand about you? Every woman you will ever meet has a version of herself that doesn't get recognized. A layer that gets overlooked or misread or filed away under the wrong label. Maybe people see her as confident when she's actually terrified underneath. Maybe people see her as distant when she's just protecting herself. Maybe people assume she has it all together when she is quietly exhausted from holding everything up alone. And because most people never ask, she carries that misunderstood version of herself in private. So when you ask this question, something significant happens. You're not just making conversation. You're telling her that you're curious about the real version, the one that doesn't always get to speak. And when she starts answering, she will drop her guard in a way she doesn't with most men. Not because you did something impressive, but because you created a space where the truth felt safe enough to come out. This is where intimacy actually begins. Not in romance, not in chemistry, in being seen accurately. When a woman feels like a man genuinely wants to understand her beyond the surface, something in her relaxes, and that relaxation becomes trust. And trust is the foundation that everything else is built on. Hold her eye contact while she answers. Stay calm. Don't over-validate. Don't perform empathy. Just receive what she's saying with steady, grounded presence. Because that kind of stillness in a man is magnetic in a way that words never are. The sixth question is the deepest one, and it requires the most from you to hold correctly. If you could go back and say one thing to your younger self, what would it be? This question doesn't stay on the surface. It pulls her into the past, into moments she doesn't revisit often, into the version of herself that was still figuring things out, still getting hurt, still learning what she was worth and what she wasn't willing to accept. When she answers this question, you'll hear a shift in her voice, a weight that wasn't there before, because now she isn't talking about who she is. She is talking about what made her, the experiences that changed her expectations, the moments that cost her something, the lessons that came with a price she didn't ask to pay. And in that moment, you're not just seeing the woman sitting in front of you. You're seeing the entire story behind her, the timeline, the chapters, the growth. That is where real connection happens. Not in shared interests, not in surface compatibility, in someone looking at your full story and not looking away. But this is also where most men fall apart. Because when a woman opens up at this level, men tend to soften too much. They lean in too fast. They start trying to comfort, or rescue, or relate in a way that collapses their own presence. And the moment a man loses his groundedness in an attempt to connect emotionally, he loses the very thing that made the connection feel safe. Stay steady, stay rooted, let her speak without interruption. Let her finish without rushing her toward a resolution. You are not there to fix what she's describing. You are there to hold space for it. And when a man can do that, when he can hear something heavy without becoming unstable, without flinching, without turning it into his own story, a woman begins to trust him differently. Not just as someone she's attracted to, as someone she feels safe with. And that is the deepest level of connection a conversation can reach. Now step back and look at what just happened across all 6 of these questions. Not one of them was about you. Not one of them was designed to make you look impressive, or funny, or successful, or deep. They were all pointed in one direction, toward her, toward the version of her that doesn't usually get invited into the conversation. And that is the entire point. Most men approach attraction like it's a presentation. They walk in with something to show, something to prove, something to offer. And while they're busy performing, women are sitting there feeling the distance of it, feeling like they're watching a highlight reel instead of meeting a real person. What these questions do is collapse that distance, not by making you seem more interesting, but by making her feel more interesting. By making her feel seen, heard, explored, and valued in a way that the compliment, the joke, the story about your travels, and the name drop of your job title never could. When you ask the right question, and you hold the space for the answer with real presence, you stop being just another man in her day. You become an experience, and experiences create memory, and memory creates desire. That is what attraction at this level actually is. It is not chemistry you stumble into. It is a feeling you create by being the kind of man who is more curious about her world than he is eager to show her his own. So take these 6 questions seriously. Not as scripts, not as lines, but as tools that only work in the hands of a man who is genuinely present, genuinely calm, and genuinely interested in what's underneath the surface. Because that man is rare, and rare is always remembered.